All right, so talking about graphing quadratic functions, like I said, there are lots of vocabulary terms, and it's going to be important to keep up with these. A quadratic function has the general form, and because it says function, we need to put f of x, the function of x, is equal to capital A x squared plus bx plus c, okay? And here's where that quadratic comes in. You got that 2 right there. Ax squared plus bx plus c, where a does not equal 0, and I'm going to add and is an integer. So it can't be a fraction. Okay, not a fraction. Okay, we want it to be an integer, a positive or a negative number, but it can't be 0. All right? Okay, the graph of a quadratic function is shaped like the letter U and is called, do you remember what I called it just a minute ago? Parabola. Parabola. So we were talking about all kinds of linear things. Now we're talking about parabolas. Justice, are you okay? You all right? All right, let's open it up. Let's get to this. So there are 3 different forms that we use when talking about quadratic polynomials or quadratic functions, okay? And each of these forms have a different thing that they highlight. So we might use a different form if we were looking for the vertex, a different form for other things. Ooh, I forgot. Probably not enough time. Do you want to start it or do you want to wait till tomorrow? You want to start it? Okay. So the general or standard form, which is close to what we have up there, is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. When you have this form, this is good for easily identifying letter C, which is going to be your y-intercept. Y-intercept. I know I've heard that before. Let's see here. Sydney, do you have a calculator? Might want to grab one from back here. I'm just going to give you the first page to start on, okay? So grab a calculator back there. This y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? What is the y-intercept if you're looking at a graph? Does anybody remember? Yeah, it's where your graph crosses or intersects with the y-axis, okay? Where your graph crosses the y-axis. So the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. The x-intercept, if we had talked about that, is where it would talk and cross the x-axis. Also, we have what we call an axis of symmetry. Sounds kind of negative or nasty. Yes. Where the graph crosses the y-axis. The axis of symmetry, sometimes we abbreviate it as AOS. Axis of symmetry is the equation, and this is really, really important. X equals the opposite of b divided by 2a. And on that axis of symmetry is the vertex. So that's another important word, vertex. Okay? All right, there's some other things I'm going to add here. Hopefully you still have a little bit of space. Okay? When, I'm going to try to put it up here. When this a value at the very beginning, when a is greater than 0, or when a is going to be positive, okay, then the graph, this parabola, is going to be going up. So if a is 5, 2, 1, anything like that, it's going to be a U-shaped graph, and it's going to go up. Okay? So you'll never guess. If a is less than 0, meaning it is negative, which way do you think it's going to go? Down. You guys are so smart. And math is a lot like that, you know. The opposites will happen. So if my a value at the very beginning was -1, -5, -23, it's going to be going down. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right. Axis of symmetry, let me say a little something extra about that. Your axis of symmetry is going to cut the parabola in half. Okay, cut the parabola in half. In other words, if I'm looking at these two U-shaped things right here, and we usually show them with a dotted or dashed line, it's like you could fold it on that dotted line and they would line up with each other. So this right here is the axis of symmetry, the AOS. This right here is the AOS, axis of symmetry. Lots and lots of vocabulary here. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, factored form. This is the second form. So there's this standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So think about it. It's standard. It's like your ABCs. Factored form, what do we know about factors? Factors, you do what operation? You look for a GCF, but factoring means you are multiplying. So factored form is going to look like this. Y equals A times quantity x minus r sub 1 in quantity times x minus r sub 2 in quantity. Okay? So this is factored form because I have three factors, three things that I'm multiplying. A times this value times this value. From this form, we can easily identify our roots, our solutions, our zeros, all of those, okay? And if you are talking about a parabola, you could have 0, 1, or 2 roots. 0, 1, or 2 roots, okay? The roots, the solutions, and the zeros of a quadratic function are the x-intercepts, or where the parabola crosses which axis again, if it's the x-intercepts? The x-axis, yeah. Okay. You're like, man, this is a lot. It is. I know it is. And then finally, we get to our third form, which is vertex form. Vertex form, and that is y equals a times x minus h, that quantity squared, plus k. You are never going to guess what we get from vertex form. Come on, go ahead, say it. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? Hopefully Grant and Mrs. Grant, right? So guess what we're going to find from vertex form? Come on, Emmanuel, say it. Somebody say it. The vertex, yes. The vertex. So from this form, we can easily identify the vertex, which is going to be your h, comma, k value. And that means that it has been moved, okay? So maybe you have a parabola and it looks like this on your graph, okay? And then we're going to move it. And the vertex, let's say right here is the coordinate plane, okay? So my vertex right here, the bottom point is 0, 0. But then guess what? We're going to move it. And when it moves like I'm a ballerina, I know that was great, wasn't it? When it moves, this new vertex is my HK value. So that's after it's been moved. We can move it up, we can move it down, but after it's moved, that's the HK value. All right? Okay. So then it says the vertex is the highest, and when it's the highest, it's called the maximum, or the lowest. When it's the lowest, it's called the minimum point of a quadratic function. It's either the highest or the lowest. So if I have my graph going like this, and here's the bottom of the U right here, or here, that's going to be the minimum because it's at the very bottom. Okay? If I have a graph that goes like this, then the vertex is going to be the maximum. We're at the top. Okay? We might have to do some exercises tomorrow. Show me a vertex that has a maximum. No? Okay. All right. So here we go. Identifying on a graph. Given this function below, and it is a function. Do you remember how we can tell a function given a graph? Wasn't there some kind of line test or something? Oh, the vertical line test. Yes, it was the vertical line test. Remember, if you do a vertical line test and it only crosses in one place, then it's a function. So yes, these are functions. Where are the roots, the intercepts, the solutions, or zeros? So the roots, x-intercepts, solutions, or zeros are going to be right here. These 2 points are your roots. Your zeros. It's where the graph crosses the x-axis. Where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay? The axis of symmetry, I'm sorry, I should have said axis of symmetry, is what cuts your parabola into 2 equal parts. So this right here is your axis of symmetry. Okay? Now, the hard part is knowing what to call it. Right here, if I look at any point on this axis of symmetry, they would all have the same x value. So this is x is equal to 1. The axis of symmetry is x is equal to 1 because every x value on that vertical line is a 1. And then finally, the vertex. The vertex is right here. And question, is that a maximum or a minimum for this graph? It's a minimum. See, you guys know this already. It is a minimum. And what are the coordinates of that vertex? 1 and -4. Okay? And the vertex is always on your axis of symmetry. The vertex is always on your axis of symmetry. Okay? So that is a lot of information. Are there any questions about any of that? Oh, it's a good thing we don't have homework tonight, huh? But we're not done yet with the notes. Okay? Not done with the notes. Let's go to the next page. Okay? All right. Just like you have families, parabolas have families. We have parent, and then we have basically non-parent. Okay? The parent function, the parent equation is y equals x squared. So we look at all parabolas based on y equals x squared. Okay? Y equals x squared. And when dealing with, especially the parent function, we use these fabulous 5 x values. Because we often want to know what happens when x is negative, like at -2 and -1. What happens when x is 0? What happens when x is 1 or 2? Okay? We want to see what's happening. So what we do here, since this is my table, I'm going to substitute these values in for x, and they're going to give me my y value. Okay? So I'm going to say y equals -2 squared. And what is -2 squared? 4. Yeah. And you can just write 4 there if you want, as long as you understand where you're getting that 4 from. Okay? And the next one would be y equals -1 squared, which is equal to what? What's -1 times -1? +1. Okay? Joelle, are you done? Are you done with it for now? Okay. Can you take out the notes? Did you get the notes packet? All right. And you go on. Y is equal to 0 squared, which is 0. And then we go y is equal to 1 squared, which is 1. And y is equal to 2 squared, which is 4. And then we are going to graph these coordinates. So you have your x values, and these over here are your y values, the answers that we got. So -2, -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, 3. -2 is my x coordinate, and then I have 4. So I go 2, -2, and up 1, 2, 3, 4. That point is right there. Okay? Then I have, let's do this in a different color. So this is -2, 4. This is going to be -1, 1. So 1 here and then up 1. Okay, then I have 0, 0, my origin. Then I have 1, 1. And I have 2 as my x coordinate and 4. And then you connect all of those in a U shape. Okay? All right, the axis of symmetry is what cuts it in half. So your axis of symmetry here is your y-axis. And what is true about every x or y coordinate on the y-axis? If it's the y-axis, everything that is an x is a 0. So you can say this is the y-axis. And my vertex, is it a maximum or a minimum? It's a minimum. It's at the bottom. And what is that vertex? 0, 0, the origin. Okay? All right. So we will stop there. No new homework. Please make sure you get me all homework from the last chapter. Okay? From the last chapter. Needs to be turned in by Friday. Look on Skyward. I will be here tonight and Wednesday if you need some